Thanks for putting the spotlight on there. Awesome. Well, again, we are very excited to have Dr. Lori here today with us to share her story. Dr. Lori Marie Huertas has a doctorate in organizational leadership and a master's in family counseling. Dr. Lori works with the MSU Denver as a professor and assistant director of industry partnerships. She lost her mom and her dad and has worked as a grief expert and is a published book author that has presented at conferences all around the USA. She's a proud author of the article that we're going to link, or we have linked in the chat. A daughter reflects on her father's legacy of love, alive hospice. She volunteers with Blue Star Families, and the most fun fact is that she is a Zumba instructor. So maybe we'll do a little dance to shake it all out at the end if everybody consents to that. Um, which I know I do. So I'll hand it over to you, Dr. Lori. Appreciate it so much. Take it away.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for having me. I am currently at MSU Denver, so I'm physically located in Denver. I was born in New York, raised in Puerto Rico. And the irony with my story is that when I got my master's, a big part of my training and internship was done with bereavement. Never in a million years did I imagine that my mom and dad would pass away. Um, I mean, we all know it's going to happen eventually, but I never thought it would happen when it did. I used to run bereavement groups with through hospice, again, ironically. Um, and it was Hospice by the Sea in Florida. And it was a specific hospice branch that was focused on children. And so I had bereavement group called HUGS, which stood for Help, Understanding, Guidance, and Support. And I would give the children teddy bears so they could hug it when they didn't have words and they needed to express their feelings. We focused a lot on journaling and a lot of, again, just so many ironies with my situation. A lot of butterfly releases. So they had a butterfly garden where they would release butterflies um, in honor of their loved ones, and they had like butterfly stones where they would put the names. And I say that that part of my story is ironic because when my mom passed away, and I'll tell you more specifics about that in a second, I was surrounded by butterflies inside a building where there were no flowers. Everybody's like, where these butterflies come from? And then when my dad passed away, we did a butterfly release as well. And one of the butterflies landed on my heart. And my son's in the military, which is why I volunteer with Blue Star Families, as Chris said. I had a flag for him, and I'll tell everyone more about that. And I actually have a video that I could share later on, but it's not for the you have to be pretty strong because you'll see me crying in the entire video. But I had a flag on the boat in honor of my son, and the butterfly landed on the flag before it flew away, and it was a huge butterfly. So, yeah. So just say that we never know, like in life, like situations. I personally believe in God, but just the irony of certain things, regardless of your beliefs that happen in our life and how it can come into play later on, or just how puzzle pieces, even like people that we meet and stories that we hear and how they connect. Because I just remember hearing so many stories. And I remember when I worked at hospice with the children, hospice had it wasn't a priest, I forget what the title is, but basically it's somebody that's trained in pretty much every religion, and even if someone's an atheist, of what their final wishes are before they pass away, but for children. And so I remember before I left, they had been there for 30 years, and I was just so curious of like, heaven or afterlife and what their thoughts were. And I remember meeting with them, and I remember him telling me that he could tell with adults and children when they pass away whether or not they've forgiven everybody in their life based on their physical appearance of their body, the things they said, the things they would, share, and that he had done like over 500 people, and there was just very commonalities. And I remember that, like, for me was kind of beautiful, and I just remember being just so intrigued about all that. And years later, little did I know, like, some of his words would be comforting to me as I miss my mom and dad. So story of my mom and dad getting sick is I was working on my doctorate. I was in Florida at a university there, really happy with my job. I lived at the time about mm, maybe 35 minutes from my parents. I lived in a city called Melbourne, and my parents lived in Orlando. And I would see them every weekend. We were pretty enmeshed and talk to them like 20 times a day. And never like imagine them getting sick. And I always, when I would visit them, ask, how's everything going? Everything's fine. I'm going to the doctor. And one time I went to visit them, and my dad pulled me aside and said, hey, when you hug your mom, and my mom was not a hugger, so I had to like kind of force her to hug, which I'll explain because this is confidential. Why? There's a reason why she didn't like hugging. And I was a hugger at that time. And so my dad was like, when you hug her, check her breast because she has this like lump. It started out as a pimple, it's gotten big. She doesn't want to go to the doctor. She didn't want me to tell you, but I'm concerned because it's changing colors. So again, like for years, checking on them, visiting them, never knew anything about this. So hugged my mom and I felt it. And um and it felt, not to be graphic with everyone listening, but it felt like a nipple, like that size. Like it was hard, but it was that not that. Like, it'd almost be like if she had a third one or whatever. So I felt it. I said, Mom, what's that? And she's like, oh, it's not nothing. It's nothing. And I said, well, do you mind? I look, can I look at it? She's like, yeah, it's okay. I'm putting Puerto Rican. So born in New York, raised in Puerto Rico, and our family thinks that Vicks and certain things a family could solve any medical ailment. They don't need to like go to the doctor or whatever. So, and let alone not go to see a therapist either. That's like another story. So, because the family could solve everything, like in my family, that's how they felt. So anyway, um, she lets me look at it, and when I look at it, it was the color of my jacket. It was black, and it looked like a nipple, kind of like that big. It was that big. And apparently, from what she said and my dad said, it started out the size of a pimple, meaning like if maybe she had gone early, who knows? So I'm like, Mom, does it hurt? And she's like, well, I just take Tylenol when it hurts. And I'm like, Mom, like, we need to go to the doctor. And she's like, I don't want to go. And I'm like, Mom, this is a non-negotiable. Like, please, like, I don't want to, like, force you or like, but you need to go to the doctor. Like, this is a big deal. So we go to the doctor and we go to the doctor. The doctor was furious at me. And I had just found out about it. They were like, why did you wait so long to bring her? This is really bad. And I'm like, look, I had no idea. It's not like, I'm asking them, are you guys healthy? And I'm believing them. Like, what am I supposed to doubt my parents? Like, how would I know? Like, and she always had a shirt on. So they're like, we need to rush her in immediately. Like, we recommend chemo. Definitely recommend her cutting that breast off. And so my mom was like, absolutely not. I don't want that. And she's like yelling at the top of her lungs. And I'm like, Mom, please, like, like, let's listen to what the doctor says. So she's like, what are the other options? So radiation. So take her in for radiation, and they do the radiation, and it comes off, right? And she has the little like scar or whatever. But the doctor meets with both of us and says, hey, um again, strongly recommend that regardless of us doing the radiation, that she cuts the breast off. In fact, If she was my mother, I would tell her to cut both of them off because the cells stay there and it's gonna regenerate. It's not like and so my mom is like and then also but like in the meantime before we do the surgery to remove it that my mom continued going to radiation, just in the meantime, right, in the same spot. So take her home and, taking care of her. And my parents had been married for 50 years and very strong-willed, both of them. They so my dad is like, look, I got it. I'll take her to radiation. And I'm like, are you sure? He's like, yeah, that she'll be fine. So I go back to work, right? And I'm assuming my dad's taking her. He is not taking her. So I take off of work and I'm like, look, can I go to her to one of the appointments? And they're like, no, 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 you don't need to. I'm like, no, 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 I really want to. So again, doctor mad at me. Why is she not coming to the radiation appointments? Do you understand the severity of this? Like, really like recommend that she has this done. And to make a long story short, because I haven't gotten to the part of my dad and I don't remember how long I have to talk to you guys. She ended up passing away. Will you guys give me like a 10-minute warning or something? Oh, thank you. So she ended up getting metastasis. It spread and she passed away. Um, and but right before she passed away, I would say, oh, like maybe like a month before she passed away, my dad was starting to lose his voice. So, and I thought it was stress with everything going on, blah, 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 or maybe he had some type of virus, like never in a million years thought he had cancer too. So bring him into his appointment and they dropped the bomb on me that my dad had throat cancer. I literally like if you guys had asked me to do this years ago, I could not even talk about this without crying. And I still cry, I'll talk more about my grieving process because for those listening, in my opinion, grief never goes away. Grief is love with nowhere to go. So you never stop grieving because you never stop loving. Like if you truly love somebody, you always love them. You just have to figure out where you're going to put that love or what you're going to do with it, in a healthy way. Which is why I volunteer so much, because that's my way. And I'll share where I even got that idea about volunteering with my love. But anyway, so I take my dad in and I'm like, you gotta be, kidding me. I don't want to curse because we're being recorded. I was just like, I cannot like believe this. Like, am I being like, you know, thinking all these thoughts. Am I being punked? Am I being cursed? Like this is like a nightmare. And so I'm trying to be strong for my dad and my mom, right? So, but my dad was a little more open-minded to what the doctor said. So this doctor was like, look, I think he's probably stage 3. I think that I have some students, we have this new research drug, we could do chemo. It's not covered by insurance. So, oh my God. And my dad had retired. So we literally had to like get money from all over the place from his 401k and all this stuff to pay for all this stuff. And then, like I said, so my mom ended up passing away. And then my dad, when after they did the first chemo, they pretty much said that he ended up having like a heart condition because the chemo they gave him was too strong. And they just said he had 4 weeks to live and that I should just take him to a hospice home. And I was like, absolutely not. Like, um, I want him to be with me. We're like, what are the other options? They're like, well, hospice can come to you. So I quit my job, quit school. So quit my doctorate. That's why my doctorate is and the only reason I finished my doctorate is because my dad, before he passed away, grabbed my hand and said, promise me you're gonna finish. Because if not, I would have been like, forget the doctorate. Because like at that point, like I just, I can't get my parents back, And so I was just like, what would be the purpose? But I really did it for him and for the students that, I feel I can encourage by having my doctorate, and hopefully tell my story. So they said my dad had 4 weeks to live. Am I okay, Chris, on time? Okay. So they said my dad had 4 weeks to live, and we were living in Florida. He was extremely depressed. My parents' love story is a beautiful love story. Literally, it is like the Notebook. In fact, before my mom passed away, they fell asleep holding hands in the bed and they looked like they weren't breathing. And I remember calling a friend of mine, I'm scared to touch them because they had made an agreement that they had told me they made an agreement they wanted to pass away together. My dad died a year, almost like a year almost exact after my mom passed away. And I see signs of them all the time. Like people don't have to believe me, but I just do. Like, and I could tell you stories and like, and so I tried to, my dad was really depressed. We were living in Florida. And my son was stationed at the time. He's in the military in Tennessee. And so I was like, why don't we move? And he married his high school sweetheart, come from a family of romantics. And I'm a young grandma, so three grandkids. And anyway, I was like, Dad, at the time, I think there was grandkid number two had come. Is it Chris? Were you are you gonna say something? Okay. Great. So I was like, why don't we move to Tennessee? It'll be good for you. It'll be good for me. Because my dad was so depressed that he literally at one doctor's appointment told the doctor, what can I sign so I could give you permission to kill me? Like euthanasia. Like he literally was like, just give me I just want to be with my wife. I miss my wife. And I was like, Dad, please, I can't can you just like I know this is hard for all of us, but and so I was just trying to make my dad happy. So we moved to Tennessee and then that way he could be closer to my son and see the grandkids. And I got pictures of him. And the book that I wrote that Chris talked about earlier is my dad giving advice to my grandkids about life because my mom never met my grandkids and my dad never met grandkid number three. And I actually have a picture of my dad holding the English version of my book because I ended up translating into Spanish because there was some Spanish hospice workers, that nurses that asked me to translate it. So I translated it later on, but my dad, he wasn't physically alive to see it. I'm sure in spirit he's super excited. Because I used his words. Basically what I did is after my mom passed away, my son came to visit with grandson number one at the time, and my dad was holding him and he just in his mind he was going to pass away too. So he was like giving advice. He's like, look, honey, I don't know how long I'm going to last, but let me give you some advice about life. And I had a notebook and was writing everything down. And so the book is literally, I made it rhyme, but it's stuff that my dad was saying to my grandson. So during his last year of life, I really tried to do his bucket list. And it doesn't matter now because I'm not going to get in trouble with hospice, but I wasn't supposed to take him traveling, but I did because I wanted him to be happy. And it's funny because we watched that movie Bucket List by Morgan Freeman and Jack Nicholson. And afterwards I was like, Dad, what's your bucket list? And so he's like, I want to do your mom's bucket list first. Like, I'm telling you, the love of these two is incredible. And so she wanted to meet Dolly Parton. So we tried. I took him to where Dolly Parton was. He didn't get her to meet in person, but she was nearby and we stayed at her hotel. And then we did his bucket list, which he wanted to meet Joel Osteen. And basically he wanted to say goodbye to all his friends and family. So it took him, traveled around to basically visit his friends and family. I didn't realize at the time that's what he was doing. I'm just thinking he's doing his bucket list. But now in hindsight, I realized that's what he was doing, is he wanted to say goodbye to the people he was close to. And so when he passed away, you know, it was real, like I said, it's still hard. He was my best friend. And I think of the movie Inside Out. So if you haven't seen it, a part one, where it's a psychology movie and you could kind of see the brain and the different emotions, and it's based on real research and it's based on real emotions. And that part at the end where the little girl is basically she's grieving the loss that she misses her friends and they had moved, and she's kind of disconnected with her family, and she runs away and the family's having trouble communicating with her, and in her brain you see all of the emotions going on. And when you're watching the movie, well, when I was watching it, I always thought that the main emotion was joy, and that joy was the leader, and that like that was like the goals, everybody needs to be happy. But in the movie they do such a good job at the end, because it's not until sadness and joy come together and you literally see the fusion of colors, that the little girl starts crying and connects with her parents. And between tears and laughter, they're finally able to talk about like real feelings. And I feel like that is my journey with grief. It is a combination of sadness because I miss them, joy with the memories, um, gratitude that I had great parents, that I had such an example of real love. And I'm divorced and I still believe in love and I still believe in marriage. And it's because of their love that I have hope that that still exists. And then back to grief being love with nowhere to go. That came from when my son was in college. He went to Ave Maria University. It's a university in Florida. And the president at the time was friends with Mother Teresa, but like he really was friends with her. Like when she passed away, she left like her rosary and stuff to him. And he was telling us stories about her. And there was one story that he shared, and it was about a gentleman who was happily married and had a nice family with his daughter. And his wife and his daughter were in a car accident and they passed away. And so they brought the gentleman to Mother Teresa for her to pray with him. And after she prayed with him, and of course he was crying, she said, "What are you going to do with all that love?" And he was like, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "What are you going to do with all the love you used to give your wife and your daughter?" And he's like, "I don't know." And she's like, "You need to give it to others." And honestly, that is how I live my life. I'm 100% not perfect. People so many times like, maybe give me awards or like, why do you volunteer so much? But just being transparent, there's a little selfish part because because I have all this love that I can't give my mom and dad because they're not here, right? My son's in the military traveling all over. I can't give it to him. And so what can I do? I could give it to others. Um, I'm very grateful that the anger stage, because the stages of grief are real, and I did go through all of them, anger, denial, all of that. I'm very grateful that I did not linger in the anger one too long, because you go through, and it's not even just that I lost my mom and dad, I lost my best friend. I've honestly lost probably like six people that were really close to me. Um, and I try so hard because I want to leave a legacy for my grandkids. And I know that my mom and dad would not want me to stay in that rut. And so to honor them, I try, and again, I'm not perfect, to be the best version of myself. I have to share one more story,
Okay,
Chris. I hope.
yeah, take your time. It's only 5:36, so you have time.
Okay,
Yeah, like another 5 minutes or so. Does that sound good?
that's perfect. Yeah. And so I'll put in the chat later on because I got to go on YouTube to get it. So my so my mom passed away so quick, and she always did, both of them wanted to be cremated for some reason, right? So my mom was cremated. She didn't really have any special requests, but my dad, I don't know if it was because I we watched that movie Bucket List. He was like, and because they said he had 4 weeks to live, but he lived a year longer. So I had all that time with him to really like talk to him, and hospice was there to like write down like his final wishes and stuff like that. And at the end, like he literally like the day before, well, 2 days before he passed away, he was like, "Your mom was in my room. She was laying next to me." He's like, "I saw your grandma too." Like, and that was all the stuff that remember the priest or the guy had told me years ago happened. Like it was just so weird. So when he told me, I wasn't like freaking out because remember I had heard the story years ago when I used to volunteer with the kids. Um, but uh he his bucket list was he's like when we watched the movie he's like I want my ashes to be in a coffee can just like the movie, right? And I'm like, Dad, come on now. He's like, no, really, I want my ashes to be in a coffee can. He's like, but here's the thing, it has to be Café Bustelo because he loved Café Bustelo. And it has to be like that. So, and then as he was getting closer to passing away, after he had told me he really wanted me to finish my doctorate because he never went to college, um, he said, "You know what? And put half of my ashes in the coffee can in your grandma's tomb because my grandma in Puerto Rico had one of those tombs where you could put like well more than one person or whatever, or she had permission to put her kids in there." And then he's like, "And then the other, I want you to spread it in the ocean in Florida because that's where your school is, right?" And then my son was actually getting his doctorate. He graduated before me. He actually graduated when my dad was before my dad passed away, so my dad knew, so that was really cool. And so he's like, my son's school was in Miami, Florida too, so he's like, put it there so that um you guys know that even if I'm not there, that I'm there in spirit, you know, because I want to be at least like feel like I'm nearby, whatever. So when it came to how am I doing, Chris? 2 minutes? Two. Okay, so I'll try to talk real quick. So my with the coffee thing ended up getting an urn that had the logo of Cafe Bustelo. I found one. I paid like all this money because his family, my dad's brothers and sisters were really mad. They felt like it was super disrespectful to put the can in there and they made a big deal about it. So I was like, you know what? I want to honor him. So I found an urn and I got the logo and it said Café Bustelo, estuve aquí. It was so crazy that I found that with a little heart. It was like made in the 60s. It was like one of their original logos, right? But then the other part of his ashes ended up renting a boat in Florida and with a captain from the Navy, just did it online. And when the boat arrived, it was my mother's first and middle name. That's why I'm saying like all the signs. And I randomly just picked a boat. My mom's name was Ana Luisa, but she used to tell everybody, my real name is Lois Ann. My real name is Lois Ann. The boat was Lois Ann. And so I lost it. And then, and again, I'll send you guys the video because that is all videotaped. And then we're going slow and the boat's taking out. And I tell the captain, is everything okay? He's like, come up here. I need to show you something. And everybody, he's like, no, just Lori. And when I look, two dolphins were leading the boat, plus the butterfly thing, plus my dad's favorite song before he passed away that he made them play for me. Hospice was by Bob Marley. Don't worry about a thing. Every little thing's going to be all right. That song played on the boat before we got off. So I say all of that because those are the things that maybe bring me a little bit of peace in the midst of this hard, challenge. Chris, I'm trying to be respectful with your
No,
time.
you're great. And we had a short check-in, and I want to honor your story. I mean, it's just amazing. And the work I think that's really important is, from what I'm hearing, is passing that, like, not avoidance, but that joy of what death can bring, because it really is it's another process of life. Um, so yeah, I mean, and anything else you want to say before we maybe turn it over and see if there's any questions that we all have?
No,
Because I'm
I'd
sure
love
there
to.
are. I know I have some, but
No, I'd love to answer the questions. I think, anything else I say will probably come out in the questions.
beautiful. Well, thank you for sharing and that's I mean spreading that love. I mean that's what kind of what we do here at Chow is in our little way is say, hey, here's our pain and here's our joy and how do we sit with all of it. So thank you. I'd like to pass it over. Does anybody have any questions that they have for Dr. Lori?
Yeah, I have a question. I was thinking about your work with the kids at the beginning. Um, First, I kind of want to know how you got into that and like,
Yeah.
not to sound rude, but like, why would you want to do that?
Yeah.
But also
Yeah.
how that, if you feel like that shaped your grief process later on, because I would think being around it, being so involved that you would have like some kind of vision of a grief process when it happens to you, but I also feel like it's incredibly difficult to put those things, like separate them.
Yeah, so how I got into it is when I was getting my master's, I chose to focus on marriage and family. In my program at my university, I was one of two in the entire program of like 100 students that was bilingual that spoke Spanish. And the hospice location of children bereavement by the sea in Fort Lauderdale, I don't even know if it's still there in Florida, they had a high percentage of bilingual children that were in need of grief therapy. And so they just approached me and said, "Hey, would you be willing to do this?" And I love children, always have, always will. And so I was like, I thought of it more from that perspective. Didn't realize, Victoria, didn't really overthink the fact of what I would be hearing with the stories of the children, or just more of, putting my master's of marriage and family into practice using active listening. I think you guys mentioned that earlier, being empathetic, and knowing that even though at that time I had not experienced death of a person, I definitely had lost things in my life that felt like that I felt grief, kind of like the movie Inside Out. We had moved from Puerto Rico to the United States when I was about 16. And that to me was feelings very similar to bereavement because I had my first boyfriend, my first love. I had a lot of friends. I loved Puerto Rico. We moved to Virginia. It was a culture shock. I was bullied to the point where like almost beat up in the bathroom because I was like the only Hispanic girl in the school. So they didn't know what I was. They were like, there was black and white, and then there was me. And they were like, what are you mixed? And so if it wasn't for a teacher that really like rescued me, who knows? Maybe you guys wouldn't even be talking to me. But then the other part of your question was something about like how did what was the end part? What was it, Victoria? Like where I am right now or
Yeah,
something?
like how that experience of your volunteer work, how that shaped your grief like later on, like if it helped you or if you don't feel like it helped you.
Oh, it helped immensely. It helped because it was almost like I was now on the other side, So now I was the little girl that had lost her parents. Whereas before I was like, they even had a Camp Good Grief and it was so nice. And they would write a letter to their loved ones, and then they would do a fire and they put it in a balloon and like let it go up like that. Like even that, like just remembering that, and I remember like hugging children and kids hugging me, and I just remember and now being on the other side. I will share really quick. I do want to share this because I feel like this is important. I do a lot of trainings on the five love languages. And that's another thing, Victoria, that I've been like doing for like 20 years since my master's or whatever, just because it was part of my training. But thinking to my grief, my love language for most of my life, up until my dad passed away, was physical touch. I was a hugger, like to the point where like they worried about me when I was little, like for safety, they'd be like, "Yo, you can't be hugging everybody." Like you know, like that was like such a big thing. And even like in other areas of my life, like I had to be very careful, physical touch, like that was. But my dad was a hugger too. So when my dad passed away, I didn't hug. I didn't hug for years. In fact, honestly, the first time I had a real hug, I think that I could feel like back to my old self was when I moved to Denver here and I started at MSU Denver, and there was one of my colleagues. Um, it was when the whole DEI stuff was going on, and that's a topic for another day. And we were talking about it, and he hugged me. And I hugged him back, but like I used to hug back. And so I finally feel like I'm getting that love language back, but my love language changed to gifts because when I was packing all of my parents' things when they passed away, I realized the value of physical things. So, yes, Victoria, going back to your question, it's like stuff. I truly feel like every part of our life is like a puzzle, and that it can, if we're observant, if we're open, we could see how it could positively cause us to change the perception of a negative situation.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Anyone else have a question?
And I speak Spanish too, so if anybody online speaks Spanish, happy to. And I speak Spanglish too.
I just want to say thank you, Lori, for sharing your story. It's really it's a beautiful story, and I'm going through that right now, and so the fact that you're here and it's just made to pull the words, my mind into words, and I'm taking something that you said that I really liked was grief is love with nowhere to go. And I think that quote right there, it's really powerful and it has a lot of meaning to me. So I just want to thank you for being here and sharing that beautiful story with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I'm also going to briefly plug our Spanish speaking meeting every Tuesday at 4 on Zoom. So if you or anyone you know would like to join us in Spanish.
Yeah, Victoria, I would love that if you could send me an invite. Me gustaría, me gustaría ir a esa reunión también. I will share really quick, and I didn't know, Tia, if you wanted to share, ask a question, but one thing that I just thought about when Jorge was speaking was, you know, I like before my parents passed away and I would go to funerals or people would pass away. And you always people say, "Oh, I'm so sorry for your loss," or like things like that. And I never like really like understood that. I just thought like, oh, it's like just words, like, okay, this is what you're supposed to say. But after going through what I went with my parents, and I even remember like when my parents passed away, I actually got off Facebook for a year because there were so many people inboxing me like, "Oh, you'll be fine," or "Just get over it," or and I'd be like they'd like even like kind of like, "What stage you're in?" Then, "Oh, you should be fine," and I'd be like, "Yo, like, do you understand? Like, this doesn't go away, and this isn't like not everybody grieves the same way. That's the other thing too. Like and I love that movie Coco. Sorry to keep bringing up movies, but I'm a movie buff. I could tell you like a bunch of movies that really helped me. Coco, that movie like helped me a lot. There's another movie that helped me a lot too, and it's called What Dreams May Come, and it's with Robin Williams. It's intense, but really, really good. But anyway, I know you were cooking dinner, so I want to hear what you have to say. I'm so happy that you're here with us.
Thank you, and thank you for sharing. I lived in Mexico for about 4 years, and like I think everyone, unless they're weird, I fell in love with Dia de Muertos, Dia de los Muertos, and all of the symbolism behind it. And I thought I understood it, or I had my ofrenda every year, and I realized when I experienced extreme loss in 2022, and I couldn't imagine building an ofrenda, that I was okay with honoring people that I passed or that I lost if I had already processed and accepted it. I was okay with it. I could honor death. I was okay okay with, but I was in I'm a veteran and I worked with veterans for a long time, and so um, um, I never put any of the suicides I lost on my ofrenda until um, until 2023. And I realized if you're really going to believe in this, like, you have to, it's not just my grandparents, and it grew me a lot. And I started, I think, to process death in a way, but I also can't do direct services with veterans anymore. I can't fucking lose another client or friend. And I'm paranoid that I'm going to lose. It's been too many years since I've had a suicide, and I'm starting to just get paranoid about it. But I think it's so important that to acknowledge that, and I think you spoke to this, that like it's okay not to be okay. And as long as it takes to grieve, like in the US especially, like everybody just wants you to put a fucking bow on it and be okay. And the last thing I'll say is like the body holds, like, the body keeps the score, whatever. The body holds it. And like for 26 years now, my body responds on this day, and I'm still grieving. And but I have to hold space for that and not just be like, dude, put some more makeup on, it's gonna be fine. Like, I think we have to be okay with the sadness and be okay with that part of ourselves that isn't okay. And respect that too. And I really am grateful that that you that you spoke to that. Obviously, you're incredibly strong and you give a lot, but it's obviously you still feel a lot of pain too.
Thank you so much, Thea. You shared so much stuff, and like I really appreciate you like being so honest. Because I know it's gonna help a lot of people that are listening. I think that's like so important that we just all be honest and like, you said fucking before, and that's what I wanted to say. Like the truth is sometimes we gotta curse. Like literally, I believe in God. Like, yes, I try to be like, sometimes there's only one word and it's F. WTF. Like, and I remember my dad and I, like towards his end, was when there was an American Idol singer. I don't know if you guys remember. I could put that in the chat as well. And she had a song called "It's Okay" or something like that. I'm okay, it's okay. She was dying of cancer. She was on American Idol, and my dad loved her, and he used to tell me, man, I want to see her one day in heaven. Like, I wonder who's gonna go first, me or her. And I'd be like, Dad, please, like, don't like joke around about that. Cause my dad, like he had like a humorous side, like literally, like at the end, he was literally drinking beer with his pills. And the nurse would come and he'd be like, if you didn't bring me Vicks, don't come to my house. Like he was like trying to like find like humor was his coping mechanism,
Yeah.
But that singer, like the reason she wrote that song, and I'm gonna put the link because it's very powerful, is because people would always say, "How you doing?" And she'd be like, "I'm okay, I'm okay." And my dad used to say that sometimes, and I'd be like, "Dad, come on, you can keep it real with me. Like, we just had a situation, like he either fell down or he had an accident physically, like going to the bathroom." And I'd be like, "It's not okay, but like we're gonna deal with it." Like just being like honest, honest with your feelings. I think that like that's just so important. And then the other thing I'll say is because I feel like both Jorge and you, Dia, like kind of brought up about like it just reminded me of myself something that both of you said reminded me of myself over Thanksgiving. And the first Thanksgiving after my parents passed away, my mom has some cousins like up north, and they were like, and my son was like, he was either away in the military or he was in training or something. So I was going to be home alone. And so they were like, look, why don't you come spend Thanksgiving with us? It's your first Thanksgiving after your parents passed away. So I went, right, thinking like I would be okay. It was the worst decision I made because not only seeing everybody with their families, right? And me not having my family, and then people asking me questions. So I'm like, it's like a band-aid that gets just get tore off. And then someone felt the need to tell me why my mom never hugged was because my mom was raped when she was younger more than once, right? But they felt the need to tell me that at Thanksgiving. So I ended up lying to all of them, saying I had a migraine headache, going in the room, and I was like, you know what? So every Thanksgiving, it's not funny, but like I smile because it's against what society says we should do. But every Thanksgiving, like I stay home and I get invited to a gazillion places. But I'm like, nah, man, I'm just gonna Netflix and chill and do my own Thanksgiving because I'm still not ready. I'm still not ready, and look, it's been years. So I think being real with that, and people disagree with me. They say, "Oh, it's wrong," or "Oh my God, you're by yourself." And I'm like, I feel so much more peaceful like that than being around a lot of people. So I think we also need to be a little honest with ourselves and our feelings and okay to put boundaries with people and say, no, I don't feel comfortable with that.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel that. And what I'm hearing, and thank you everybody for all your shares, and especially, you, Dr. Lori, for kind of pouring out your heart here. I've heard you say a few times, and make parallels of grief, not only in death, but in situations. In think people that we have lost, maybe not physically, or situations, even places. When you said, we left Puerto Rico, and I'm grieving that. And I wonder if you can kind of maybe just give us a tip here at the end. I know we've run up on time, but I maybe want to wrap it in something. I grew up in the casket business, and I grew up around a lot of death and around a lot of funeral homes. So the death of people is I don't want to say easy to process, but I have a lot of acceptance around it. But when something or a situation or a system, I mean, I think we've had a couple meetings today where we've talked about some systems that we're grieving those. Or a relationship ends. There is grief around that too. Grief doesn't have to be just death. So I wonder if you can just maybe in just a minute or so or 30 seconds, say how maybe some suggestions on how do we grieve things that still exist but don't exist in the way that we were used to, or ways that feel kind. Is that okay?
Yeah. So what I'll say real quick is, and I know this is cliche, but when we're on the airplane and they're telling us like if it's going to go down, what we need to do, and if you have a kid, you need to put the oxygen thing on yourself first before you put it on someone else. Um, I always remember that because self-care is so important. And so I just think that if we can remind ourselves that no matter what's happening outside of our control, we're still here. Like, we're still here. And so we're still here for a reason. Do we know the reason? Maybe we do, maybe we don't, but we're still here. And so while we're here, maybe start with self-care. Like, what does that look like for you? And it could be different things. Like, I know this is hospitality. It could even be like there's times where eating a certain ice cream for me is self-care. Like, or eating healthy is self-care. Sometimes, honestly, eating things that maybe are not so healthy, comfort food is self-care. And so finding those ways and just remembering that, you know, that you're still here. I just want to keep echoing that. Like, you're still here for a reason. You're valued. The world needs you. The world needs you for something. You're still here. If
Thank
you
you.
weren't, if the world didn't need you, you wouldn't be here. Because I'm always like, I could be with them right now.
Yeah.
Like, there were times where I'm like, why am I not with them? Like, why am I still here? So, if you can remember that, even if you have to cry as you're thinking it, even if you have to journal as you're thinking it, if you have to watch a movie, watch a song, let it all out, because I know that when I want to cry, I just watch Coco and I'm like, okay, what, like certain movies, all right, when I need a good cry, I'm like, all right, let me just watch this. Because sometimes we do need to, like, in the same way champagne bottles pop, like sometimes we need that. We need that release. We can't hold it in. And then maybe finding support groups or great organizations like CHOW, where you can have these conversations and be yourself and not feel judged. I think that's like really important.
So true. And yes, thank you. I mean, it is it, and I think that does say it all, and having other people to talk to is really important. And so thank you all for coming, for listening, for participating. Thank you, Dr. Lori. I'll give you a little round of applause. You did really, really. I'm gonna check out that article, and yeah, I put a couple of the links for the post meeting survey here. I put the Spanish and the English speaking one, so you can choose which one you want to fill out. And that does help us out a lot to not only take care of ourselves, but to be in community. I think that's another really important thing that CHOW has taught me. And I hope that, all of us can be in meetings again together, because I take care of myself. And I know when I'm not talking to other people about it, oh boy, do I get into dark places. So this has really been great. I'm glad I got to step in and listen and hear and see you all tonight. I'll be staying on for a few more minutes. If anybody else wants to chat, Victoria, do you mind putting up the outro? And Dr. Lori, would you mind reading us out on this?
No, I'd love to. I'd be honored, honestly. Okay. And do you want me to read in Spanish too, or just English?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll do it in English and Spanish. So thank you for being with us today. Our presence is our gift to each other. Remember that what we've shared here, we've shared in confidence, but also let's pass on to others what we have received. Calm, strength, new ways forward. See you again soon. Gracias por estar con nosotros hoy. Nuestra presencia es nuestro regalo para uno para el otro. Recuerden que lo que hemos compartido aquí hoy lo hemos compartido en confianza, y por favor debemos compartir con otros lo que hemos recibido. Calma, fuerza y nuevos modos de caminar para adelante. Nos vemos pronto.
Beautiful. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Nice meeting everyone.
Abrazos todos. Muchas
Oh.
gracias, Lori.
I'm gonna put Chris in the chat.
Sure.
Some of the links that I was talking about. Let's see.
Do you still spend time down in Florida? I didn't catch.
Oh,
Are you mostly-
great question. It's so funny is I have really good friends that live here, and hold on a sec. But I I feel very anti-Florida.
Mhm.
Hold on, I'm sorry. Where are you guys? See if I can find you guys. Do I still see you? I feel very anti-Florida. And part of it is because that's where my parents got diagnosed and everything I went through there. Part of it is because I don't like the governor.
Mhm.
Just a lot of stuff. So I'm very anti-Florida. I will be going there. There's that song I was telling you guys about, which I think you guys should share. My dad loved that song, but and she actually passed away right before my dad, which is crazy. Like she passed away and then my dad passed away. But
Mhm.
yeah, I'll be going to Miami in Florida for my graduation because even though I'm officially doctor, they only do once a year where you walk across the stage. So I'll be doing the walk across the stage thing in May. I already reached out to the guy with the boat, which I'll put that link in there so you can see the boat video and you can see the butterfly thing I'm talking about. So they're
Mhm.
gonna take me to the same spot where his ash is in, and I'm gonna wear my graduation outfit. So I am going to go to that same spot. They saved like the exact location, especially because the guy is Navy, so he's like really into that. So yeah, I'm going to hold on, put that. Um, let's see. The other, see. Oh my God, I haven't seen this video forever. I'll definitely watch this when I get home. So I'm not like crying driving home. Hold on, let me see. Let's see real quick. I do want to share this with you guys. Hold on. Oh my God, where is it? Let's see. How do I get there? Oh wow, it's crazy. Oh my God. Okay, wait. Stop it. Stop. I'll boohoo. I'll boohoo here. Hold on. So only watch this when you're in a boohoo mood. So that's the actual video of the boat that I was telling you. They did such a beautiful job
Oh,
with that. The other thing I wanted to share with you guys that I mentioned is other movie because I saw one of the guys write or the gentleman Jorge writing it down. So I wanted to share the name of that movie. How do you share? Let's share. Let's see. Copy. Because this is like another great. Um, I volunteer tomorrow with the Chase House. So I still kind of back to your question, Victoria, that you were asking. I still volunteer. Well, I shouldn't say I still because I didn't for a long time. I just recently this year signed up to volunteer one with hospice and two with the Judy's House. With the Judy's House as kids that have experienced bereavement. But I put the link in for that movie with Robin Williams that is another good one, but
oh
again,
yeah, that's a good one.
not for
What
the
dreams
weak.
may come.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's super powerful.